Okay. Good morning. Let's all take our seats, please. Sharon, good morning. You're being social. Everybody's very social. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the April Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board meeting. As you can see, your chair, Norm, is not here today, and I will be filling in for him. I'm Jill Gabler, if you don't know me. So I guess we'll start the meeting by going around the room and letting everybody know who we are. I think I've already done that. What's next, Commissioner?
Commissioner Holly Williams and Secretary.
Andy Gunning with PPACG.
Tyler Stevens, Green Mountain Falls.
Terry Storm, Chamber and EDC Military Affairs Council.
Don Wilson, Town of Monument.
Dick Ellsner, Park County Commissioner.
Bruce Davis, City Council, City of Victor.
Victor.
Karen Rowe, CDOT Region Director.
Rod Chisholm, Deputy Garrison Commander, Fort Carson.
Dan Rodriguez, Deputy Base Civil Engineer, Peterson Air Force Base.
Jen Fitz, Reserve Augmentee to the Commander, Peterson.
Ron Jeffrey, Director of Staff at Schriever Air Force Base.
Dan Finkelstein, Deputy Mission Support Group Commander at the Air Force Academy.
Cammie Bremer, El Paso County.
Ken Jure, Manitou Springs.
Sharon Thompson, Fountain.
Andy Pico, Colorado Springs.
Yolanda Avila in Puma, Colorado Springs.
Puma.
Neil Levy, Woodland Park.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is agenda approval. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Just want to clarify, you did receive an updated agenda that has an additional item under consent. You should have one that says item E, site application for the Pikes Peak Visitor Center, the Summit House.
Okay.
So that did come out after the initial agenda.
Okay. I think it was at everybody's place. Does everybody have that?
I move to approve the agenda.
We have a motion from...
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Okay. We are on to public comments. We do have Kathy Bird from My Way I-25. If you would like to speak first, Kathy?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So let me...
There you go. You're on.
I am powered up. I will share with you that the best way to remember my name at this point is Kathy Cyclone Bomb Bird. And Chuck Attardo and I, why can I not get this to open? Hello. Oh, hey, who's stealing my mouse? Okay. I'm like, wow, whoa. Chuck and I were scheduled to come and present to you both on our projects. Last time there was a bomb cyclone, and I was so relieved when I got an email Tuesday morning from Jessica McMullen saying, how about we push it back to April? And I'm like, yes, no blizzards in April. Thank you. Yes, it's your fault. We're sharing it. Chuck Cyclone, Chuck Attardo, Kathy Bomb Bird. We're a pair. Okay. So I'm here to share information with you on one of the shiny happy points of any construction project, and that is efforts to reduce congestion and traffic, and then, of course, increase safety, consequently, through the GAP. Raise your hand if you are aware that there is a GAP construction project along I-25. Okay. You guys are awake. I like you. As you know, and I always like to just give a little bit of a recap because I like to focus people on the positive outcomes. Your 18-mile project between Monument and Castle Rock is under construction. 2 parts out of 3 are underway right now, as you know. Bridge replacement, bridge repair, new wildlife crossings, shoulder widening, and the addition of a 3rd lane as an express lane. While construction is never one of our favorites, construction cone zone season is upon us once the blizzard passes. But we do appreciate in the after period all the great amenities. As you can see and have seen before, the improvements that are suggested, the 2 lanes that are kind of wonky up top, 3 lanes in the row below, with the express express lanes, and widened shoulders, all to increase throughput of your travelers and safety. If you have any questions about that gap, just ask Chuck Attardo. Don't ask me. No, just kidding, Chuck. But I love that in preparation for this project, your project team pulled together little cards, and I have some, I'll put them on the front table, that are business card size that give you all of this information. You can have the project hotline, the website, an email, and sign up for text alerts, all on a little business card that will last you through the duration of this project. I think that's a very nice touch, and it kind of, I would say that in conjunction with this Central I-70, this is an addition that will probably last throughout CDOT's current iteration. It's a great tool. What I have at my fingertips and what I'm bringing to you is the idea of transportation demand management. This is the business category that I operate in, and that is the idea of taking congestion, looking at the various tools that we have available to us, and asking which tools would best be used to mitigate traffic. In the flower of TDM that you see there, public transportation, telecommuting, biking and walking, rideshare programs like vanpool, carpool, paratransit, car sharing programs, and also taxi cabs, although I would say, yes, taxi cabs can make it possible for you to get from the end of your transit trip to where you need to go, filling that last mile solution or challenge that most people meet. What we've done in conjunction with CDOT, and again, I am an employee of Dr. Cog, Denver Regional Council of Governments, your counterpart in the north, and what we do around the Denver metro area is TDM. And so we petitioned CDOT to develop the I-25 My Way program just for the gap. Our hope is to increase the cost savings for the commuters who travel the gap, to allow them to reclaim time, and we will not ever say that we can get them there faster. There's only one way to get really sort of between Colorado Springs and Denver, and that's I-25. Everybody's going that direction. Everybody's doing it typically at the same time. We can't get them there faster, but if they're sharing the ride and not always behind the wheel, they can reduce stress and they can repurpose their time. I often joke that you could, knit an entire sweater in the time it takes you. If you knit, you could knit an entire sweater in the time it takes you to get the GAP project completed, and also to reduce congestion. Fewer cars on the road, less likely to have accidents. The accidents that will happen won't cause as much slowing in congestion. So all of these are our goals, and along that effort, we found 3 modes of transportation that we promote. Biking and walking are lovely, but they won't usually work for those traveling 65 to 80 miles one way to get to work between Colorado Springs and Denver. So the first item that is very, very exciting for us is that in addition to Bustang's South line, Bustang launched a Denver Tech Center line. How many of you already knew about that guy? Okay. If you haven't seen much of it, we had been using some rental buses that are white, and we now have them purple starting Monday, this past Monday. And that line runs out of Colorado Springs and the 3 light rail park and ride stations that you have into the Tech Center twice in the morning, and then it comes back from the Tech Center to those 3 places, the Monument Park and Ride, Woodman Park and Ride, and the Tejon Park and Ride twice in the afternoon, late afternoon. So great opportunity for those of you who work, those Colorado Springians. What is the word for Colorado Springs resident? Anybody?
Cool.
Coolians. You're cool Colorado Springs residents. I keep saying Colorado Springians just because I think it's funny, but I don't want to offend anyone. Denverite is what I am. So Bustang, again, we're always pitching the Bustang because it is our most efficient mode of transportation. For $9 one way between Colorado Springs and Denver Tech Center, that's usually a 60-mile commute, which at the regular federal reimbursement rate costs you $60 a day to drive your own vehicle. Most people, because they're already paying their insurance and their car payments outside of sitting on the road, don't think of it in those terms. So if you can pay $18 round trip one day instead of $60 round trip one day, what would you choose to do? So I work with folks to understand the schedule and see that it works with their stops. I don't want anybody getting on the DTC line and getting off and going, wait, I work down there. The other amenity or the mode of transportation we promote is van pooling. It works great for folks who are not already on a transit line or with easy access. For example, we have a good number of folks in Colorado Springs commuting to Buckley Air Force Base. And while we've got a few carpools established, we have a couple of van pools. And so we help fill the seats in those van pools. We help promote about the van pools and make it clear that van pools are a great option. There's a good number of Colorado Springs folks who work at Peterson Air Force Base also who are looking to van pool down from Aurora, the reverse commute. And then most exciting for me is carpool. Almost everyone who travels and commutes has shared a ride with someone at some point in time. We have a couple of different modes of incentivizing folks for this particular mode of transportation. The one is that we're partnering with Waze Carpool. Waze has a navigation app, much like Google Maps, that a lot of folks use, but they also have a partner app that helps bring Waze drivers, Wazers, together with folks that are driving the same commute. And behind the scenes, in that great world called app-based communication, they link them together at an agreed-upon price that's usually less than the going rate of 58 cents a mile. You agree to a time, you agree to a pickup spot, and once the ride is complete, the app charges your credit card. So I was just giving the example of the $60 commute to Denver Tech Center, the $60 two-way, right? So a $30 one-way. You could get that ride for $10 on Waze. Except right now we have a promotion where it's only $2. $2. And the person who is driving is the person who gets the money. So right now it's typically $10 to take a passenger. You only pay $2. Your driver still gets $10. Where's the $8 come from? Waze Carpool. It's their method of marketing. So we've been very lucky to be able to partner with them. Our partner promotion of $2 per ride through the Gap ends at the end of May, and so we're asking that as many people as possible hop on, check out Waze Carpool. We have great information on our website on how to do that in a linked way so that you get the $2 benefit. And then we also have traditional carpool with raffle drawings. So the idea was to try to keep it as simple as possible. We offer mass transit through the 2 Mustang routes, and we offer a free round-trip ticket to anyone who's interested in trying it. They just have to fill out the form, get it to me, and then I'll work on how I'm going to get you those tickets. We have a $200 incentive for each new van that starts, or a $40 incentive or $40 off for your first month if you fill a seat instead of start a new van. And then we have this great promotion of $2 carpool rides. If you take 5 of them, you're eligible for a $10 credit, a $10 reward. And so after 5 trips at $2, anyone want to do the math? 5 times 2? 10. Thank you. You're so great. So anyway, just want to wake everybody up at the end here. What I'm asking of our stakeholders and our partner organizations is to help me communicate this information to as many of your members, your constituents, your partners and cohorts as possible. I have been in communication already with Jessica McMullen. I will resend all of that information, but I asked if you could share that, and I will ask her to share that with you, to bring it back to your newsletter, to your quarterly, to put it on a page. All of this is free to you. This is a program that is set up to offer a little bit of an incentive to the commuter to try something new, and provided they like it, they may stick with it. We're not trying to take all cars off the road at all times. Just give it a shot. see if it works in your schedule, throw it in once a week, once a month. Next thing you know, you'll be biking it.
Way to go.
Way to go. Do you all have any questions?
Questions? Kathy, I really appreciate you being here today and coming down before the snow apocalypse or whatever. I know Mountain Metro is doing some similar things, and I don't know if, given this opportunity, either Craig or Brian might want to add any words to this conversation. Yes? No? Okay. Because I know they have their own van pool program.
Yes. And I can pop back up. I apologize that we have, overtaken this slide with our Way to Go vans, but we are in partnership, and we are giving all van pool applicants the same opportunity to choose which one works for them. A lot of folks who live in Colorado Springs, it's super easy to use the Mountain Metro van pool. And so I'll let you pop in.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy, for being here. Brian Vituli, City of Colorado Springs, with Mountain Metro Transit. As Kathy said, we are a partner in this incentive, and what a great time to try to mitigate the difficulties of navigating the GAP project. And as she said, if we can get commuters hooked during this time to try out a different alternative commuting pattern, perhaps they'll be lifelong users after the project's done. So our Metro Rides program, it's one of the programs that Mountain Metro Transit operates. That's funded through PPACG with CMAQ funds and has been for some time. So we're very grateful for those funds. But this is something that's rubber to the ground. It's an actual program that you can see operating and making great benefits. And this is a great time to help promote that. And we would appreciate all the help we could get in getting the word out. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Right. Any questions from the board? I did ask Jessica to send out information about all of these various opportunities, so hopefully we can all kind of get that out to our constituencies too, because it is important.
And just so you know, I do have a toolkit, a Google Drive folder, that's really easy to connect into for anyone's communications team or the folks that put together those great newsletters that we're all famous for. And in it are logos and pictures and sample blurbs for your newsletter. You are welcome to cut and paste. You are also welcome to let whoever it is turn it into whatever their tone sounds like. But we want to make it as plug-and-play easy as it possibly can be. And know that no matter how great a job you do right now in helping me communicate this, I will be back. And I will be asking for a repeat in a couple of months just to make sure everybody in June that's sitting in traffic realizes there's another way out.
Great.
And where they can take back their commute.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Sure. Stanley?
Thank you very much, Vice Chair or Chair or Acting Chair or whatever. So
Jill.
Jill? Okay, Jill works. I appreciate the briefing. And, I had mentioned this a couple times before in previous meetings, but I just feel, compelled to reiterate it. And that is some of the technologies that are coming out with regard to smartphones and the possibility about how they could be used for citizens to create self-forming van pools. This is the concept that I see is a growing discussion in different communities around the country where the smartphone finds people that live nearby in similar neighborhoods and also work nearby in similar work areas. That allows an individual with a car, not a van, but just with a car, to go find 2 or 3 people in their neighborhood and then do that every single morning, depending on who's going up and not going up, and get enough people to cover an HOV lane or just simply save money or whatever. And I feel that we should be encouraging that here at PPACG. I think it's a technology that is out there and available and is going to develop and get more mature as time marches on. And I think it's a great way to just reduce the density of vehicles on the highways by helping people get together. And the challenge without that tool is it's difficult to find people in your neighborhood who might be 7 houses down and you don't even know them, and they might work in the same building you work and you don't even know it.
Right.
So the smartphone, I think, is a tool that can help us get there. I think CDOT has been working on
Well, and I know
Something like that.
Mountain Metro has a program like that, so I think that's why Craig is here.
Yeah.
Correct. It is online. You can use your smartphone today. It's not a separate app. But if you go to mmtransit.com, we do have a carpool matching program, which is essentially that. And what we do is you can get registered in there that you're interested in being part of a carpool. Do you have a car and you're looking for riders, or are you a rider looking for a driver? Put that information in there, and like you said, it'll link people up who are starting at the same place, ending up at the same place, heading about the same time. And what's cool about that, you don't have to do it 4 or 5 days a week going to Denver. If you're just going to a Rockies game on a Saturday, you can use it for that as well. And I think ultimately, when we do have the managed lane, if you have 3 or more people in your car, you get to ride fast and free, correct? So it's going to be a real valuable tool for everyone. And you can't do it on your smartphone now. It's not an app yet, but we can get there.
We'll get there.
I hope we do. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in public comments? Okay. We will move on to item 4, consent items. You can see there are actually 5 items, A through E, on our consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to pull anything off? And if not, I would like a motion for the, yes.
I just have a correction on the meeting minutes for.
Okay.
Let's see. It's line item 8, member entity of announcements. Down there where it says Director Bruce Brown, City of Victor. Bruce
Right.
Brown is the mayor of Cripple Creek.
Uh-oh.
And my name is Bruce Davis.
Okay. So it was you who made that comment, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay.
About the.
Do we have that change? Okay. So let's go ahead and pull item A off the consent agenda. And so is there anything else on the consent agenda anyone would like to touch? Or okay. Then I'd like a motion to pass the consent agenda.
So moved. As amended.
Thank you, Sharon. And Yolanda did, okay. All in favor of the passing the amended consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then let's go back to item A from the minutes. I need a motion to approve the amended minutes.
I will move to approve. So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Okay. Okay, we are on to our 2 action items. The first is action item A, the TIP amendment, number 8. Hello, Catherine.
Good morning, Catherine Wunger, Transportation Planner. We have 3 requests to amend our Transportation Improvement Program, which is our short-range project list for the region. All 3 are from CDOT, and the first 2 are related. So we have the first 2 are to add funds to the Powers Extension project, and part of that is for the I-25 freeway stormwater basin that CDOT would like to add money to from their water quality mitigation funds, and the second is for the Powers Extension corridor and I-25 interchange, and that is by Copper Ridge Metro District and CDOT combined. These changes are due to increased cost estimates, and they're actually here in case you have any questions for them. And then the third project is to add a project back into our TIP that you have actually seen a few months ago that we removed due to ineligibility, but we're adding it back on because CDOT was able to find some SB 228 funds, and they would like to add that back on for use for an ADA van for the Community Services and Support Program. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? I see Mr. Erickson is here from Copper Ridge, if anybody would like to discuss the Copper Ridge project.
I do have a question. Since my son is a client of Community Intersections, do I need to recuse myself from this vote?
I think that's up to you, Sharon, but I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just making it transparent.
I appreciate the transparency, always. Any questions? Okay, if you're all satisfied with this TIP amendment, then I would like a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I think Tyler Stevens beat Andy, but I'm not sure. Okay, all in favor of these TIP amendment number 8, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Okay, well, that was super easy. This is the best meeting ever.
What do we need normally?
Okay, on to item B, the Legislative Committee. This will be a little more complicated, I think. Jessica, hello there.
Good morning, Board of Directors. Jessica McMullen, your Policy and Communications Manager. Since the version you were sent in your board packet, the Legislative Committee did meet this Monday. They did review 2 additional bills, or at least discussed them. Those 2 bills were House Bill 19-1298, the electric motor vehicle charging station parking, and the other bill that we discussed was Senate Bill 19-207, which is the long bill, the fiscal year bill.
Oh, right.
Those 2 bills were discussed. The Legislative Committee is suggesting a position of oppose on to House Bill 19-1298, and is just going to monitor, suggesting that we just monitor. There's no real PPACG position on the long bill. That is not something that we have a ability to influence, as much as it is important that we stay on top of.
Wasn't there an extra 100-odd million that went in for transportation? Are you going to talk about that?
Yes, please. Thank you. So with regard to the long bill, the challenge that we have in PPACG is that it's a long bill. It's huge, and there's a ton of topics in it, some of which are simply not relevant to PPACG, and others which are. The most relevant part, in our view, is this transportation funding component. But because there's so many other positions that we could be having long discussions about, we're recommending PPACG take no position on 19-207. However, what has been in the process of being negotiated is they had added $106 million for transportation in here, and recently it was amended down to $80 million. And I will make the point that, and CDOT could perhaps verify this for me, but I believe CDOT has a $9 billion shortfall or some gigantic number like that, that's close to that. And in order for us to have a reasonable opportunity to kind of work on our transportation infrastructure issues, we need $400 million a year or $500 million a year, not 106 being reduced down to 80. And of course, this is money that's over and above the existing CDOT operating budget, so this does not refer to things like funding for snowplow use and stuff like that. This is really referring to recapitalization of roads that have deteriorated to the point where they're not recoverable, or adding new roads because we have population growth. So it's a no position recommendation on the long bill, but what we do encourage the board to do is continue to support larger funding for recapitalization for infrastructure, and that is something that's relevant to us. But because there's so much in the long bill, it's hard to correlate the two and say we oppose this bill or support this bill because there's too much else in it.
Okay, that makes good sense.
So that's the position for that. And then for the electric motor vehicle charging station, we are recommending a position of oppose. However, we would be willing to support it if there are some amendments. We went through the bill pretty carefully in our meeting, and there's some interesting challenges with it. The first one is the recommended fee for failure to comply with this law, and it's excessive. What is it, $400 between the
$350.
$350 between the violation and the processing fees.
No, the surcharge is a separate $64.
Okay, so that's why I was saying $400. That is actually larger than most moving violations, and this is supposed to be a parking issue. So the first recommendation is if it were to be amended so that the fee were to be in line with a parking charge, we would consider that a reasonable amendment. And then the other one is that this legislation is recommending that it apply to both public and private parking spaces, and have no objection to the public side. Public agencies can do as they see fit, but I think it's inappropriate to enforce this on private parking lots. So we would be willing to, we make the recommendation, we would be willing to support this bill if those two amendments are made. That's the position we're interested in taking on this. If the board sees fit, we can ask Lauren to try to work towards those two amendments with the statement from this board that we would be willing to change this to a support position with those amendments.
Okay. And I will add that Lauren did reach out to the sponsor of this bill after our discussion. They would be more than willing to consider a different fine as long as it remained within the reasonable scale. And then they are not currently expressing any interest in changing it from public and private. But the reason for that is that they were approached for this bill by specific private organizations. That right now there is nothing in statute that allows them to do anything with someone who parks in an electric spot. It's not like a handicapped spot where it's against the rules. So they fall into, yes, they can enforce it themselves as private, but there is no way to punish those people who are regularly abusing. So I did get extra information from Lauren and our bill sponsor.
I do appreciate that, and in fact, in our meeting, we actually discussed that. For a privately owned parking lot or a structure, building, land, whatever, when that land is used by others in a way that the owner does not see fit, this can be considered a trespass. So
you can tow.
Yeah, you can. What you can do is a private property owner that has a parking lot can put a sign that says this parking spot is only for electric vehicles that are charging or whatever they want to say. It's their lot, right? And when that is violated by somebody, they can call law enforcement and say this person is not abiding by the rules of our property, therefore it's considered trespass. So I will humbly differ from I suppose it was one of the sponsors that had made that comment. And I believe that there is a law in the books already that addresses it, and I do not believe it's needed in this bill.
And the only thing I will add is the one difference is that right now there is no fine. Their vehicles can be towed, but there is no fine associated for the violators of that contract. If trespass charges are placed, those may be different.
Yeah.
I think a tow is a fine.
Tow is pretty bad.
You have to pay. Yeah.
Andy?
And then, by the way, that's probably over $100 that you pay for that.
It probably is, yeah. Well, if the intent of the bill is to say, assess a fine rather than have it towed and fined, I don't know, I think we could probably talk. But as we talked about in our conference call, the private section of it has some very interesting language in it, such as the airport thing. So you pull in at an airport to the charging station, and it says, it assumes that you're charging even if you leave it while you go on your trip. So you go on a business trip for 2 weeks, come back, you've locked up the station there for 2 weeks. And that was an exception, so it didn't make any sense. That's
as long as you have a Tesla, it's okay.
Yeah, but if you have a Tesla, it's okay, but you now block everybody else and you defeat the purpose of the bill as far as we can see. So that's kind of one of the comments. I mean, I think we could probably have a conversation about that, but that's...
Yeah, our police, we typically don't go into a private property and ticket. You get hit by a car on a private property, it's a civil matter.
Right.
They don't come on and, write up a thing. So I think we're asking our police to change something. So I think the trespass and tow is a pretty good deterrent.
Agreed. Okay.
So those are the two, and then of course we have the package that is the page that is in the package with recommended support and opposed positions. And since there's a lot there, I will only defer to specific questions on these items. Okay. And then we do have we are asking for the board to agree to the support and opposed positions on that page, which is in your packet. And then we have one additional thing we need to discuss. We have heard, and I think most of us have heard this, as we get closer to the end of the legislative session, there's a lot of bills that's going to be coming at a high velocity for approval. In the manner in which we are operating today with the legislative committee, which is where we meet once a week, and then we do that, and then once a month we ask the board to take a position, we recommend a position, and then you vote on it. That isn't going to work the last couple, 3 weeks. So we have a proposal we would like to offer to the board at this time, and it's an unfortunate consequence simply because of the speed of what's going to happen at the end of the legislative session. But the way we propose this, and again, the way we propose it, let me just say it, is we will do an announcement about the committee will meet as needed frequently, possibly if needed every day, or via telephone in order to come to a conclusion about what to do with a bill or not. And then we will get that out to the board broadly, and we will be asking for a 24-hour turnaround for your comments to that position. If we find, because we have a position that we started at the legislative session, that if any voting member of the board objects to that position, we will not proceed with that position because we want unanimous vote. I think that's important because several of us have different views, and we want to be respectful of those views. So that is, I think, the position we need to take, but it will require the members of the board to be diligent and be looking for those messages as they're coming so that we have a chance of taking an oppose or support or no position here in the last few days of the legislative session. So we are, the committee is asking this board to accept that procedure as we go into the remaining weeks. So that is something we need to come to an agreement on.
I really like that idea. I appreciate your diligence in keeping an eye on all those fast-moving bills. Does anyone on the board have concerns or questions about that plan?
You may have said it, and my brain may have missed it, but we're asking for a 24-hour turnaround time.
Yes,
Did he say that?
24-hour turnaround time.
Okay.
I just, I would only caution to not get into a lot of group conversations through email. Just kind of send out that email and then have the board members respond directly to whoever sent out that email, so you don't get into an illegal
Everything
meeting.
will be sent blind carbon directly from me so that I can coordinate this, so we do not have any violation of sunshine.
Okay.
I will make, thank you very much for that, for expressing how we'll do that. I think we also have to work on the assumption if we hear no objection, we will proceed forward.
Exactly.
If that's acceptable.
Yeah. Is that acceptable to everyone? Are there any concerns? Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much to the board for that. And then we are asking for, as per the agenda, for your support for the positions taken on that sheet.
Does anyone have questions or concerns about any of the recommendations that were provided in this memorandum? If not, then I would appreciate a motion to approve the recommendations of the, what do you call yourselves? The Legislative Committee.
So
as,
moved.
Discussed.
So moved.
Okay. Okay. Mayor Wilson? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Okay. Lovely. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, we are on to our informational item, which I think is important for us. I think CDOT I-25 planning, is that Chuck? Karen? Chuck? Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see you. Welcome.
There we go.
It's not that.
Blizzard
Okay.
warning.
Take the con.
So Chuck, are you sure that you shouldn't be getting back to Denver? I just got a text message. Blizzard warning.
Nah, it's all good.
Everybody knows that Kathy's already left.
It's not her fault.
She said, "Good luck, Chuck. I hope you brought a change of clothes with you." Yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah. And I guess after that introduction she gave me, you might not be inviting us back. You know, Chuck the Bomb and Kathy Cyclone and all that. I don't know.
And I think the title for the movie needs to be Bomb Cyclone Returns.
Yes. I know. And by the way, just to follow up what she said, she practiced her little spiel on me, and she forgot to tell you, but there's more. You know, you got 60 to 10 to now it's $2, but now it's more. So if you ask her, she'll give you one of these cool little sling packs too. All right. Again, my name's Chuck Attardo. I work for CDOT. Andy, thank you. Board, thank you. Karen, thank you for inviting me down. It's always a pleasure to get a chance to speak to a group like this. I see John Hall in the audience too, one of my partners in crime. Couldn't have done all this without him. Let me get this thing keyed up here. I got, let's see if I can't quite see where I'm at. Jessica, can you see the little slideshow symbol down there? Can you get that for me? I can't see it from here. I have 12 slides. I'll keep you on schedule. The first few are going to be review for a lot of people in this room. The last couple are going to be about recommendations and some of the things we've been working on the last 2 weeks, some exciting stuff. I can't see it back there, sorry. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So again, I'm here to talk about the I-25 PEL, all right? The first couple reminders. August 31st, 2018, we broke ground on the gap, okay? That was the first breakout project of the PEL, all right? So the 18-mile gap was part of the PEL at one point. But this is going well. the study limits of the PEL. It's 34 miles. On the south end, it starts here in Monument at State Highway 105, and it goes north to E470, C470 in Lone Tree. So 34 miles. It's an extremely important corridor to Colorado. It links our two largest cities. It's crazy to think at one point, before John got a hack at it, that we had a 4-lane section of interstate connecting our two largest cities. You don't see that in other states, okay? It's extremely critical to the region's economic development, all right? We won a $65 million infra grant based on that, all right? That's how important it is. $60 billion worth of freight go through this corridor each year. All right? And that's not counting all the military benefits and some other things factored in. Also, this corridor is emerging into a very important transit corridor in Colorado. So in January 2017, we held our first PEL scoping meetings. All right? From the get-go, there was lots of energy and momentum behind the project. So we immediately sat down with our local governments and developed a vision for the 34-mile corridor. And Vice Chair, you'll be happy to know, it started with being open and transparent. That was really important. We also wanted to develop partnerships. We thought there's no way we're going to get something big done in this corridor without partnerships, right, with people like you. We needed to fix the problems, and it became very clear that there's 3 big problems: safety, travel reliability, and mobility. And then lastly, we needed to advance. We needed to do something quick, not just study this thing, but we needed to advance an early action project, and that became the GAP. So again, the problems in the corridor: safety, travel reliability, and mobility. In our case, mobility means giving people mode choice, but also incident management, right? When there's an incident, an accident, how do we clear that, get people around it? Also, travel delay. So mobility means a couple things there. There's a lot of things on this graphic, and I realize a lot of you can't read it, so I'm going to boil it down to 3 things. This is sort of what we're coming up with in our study, okay? First of all, the main line, I-25 main line, is sort of the heart of the recommendation, and there's 3 phases to this main line recommendation. First of all, we are recommending, FHWA is recommending, that we extend the express lane from what we're building today in the GAP all the way up to E470, C470 with a direct connect. So you can directly connect those express lanes into those other systems north in Lone Tree. And that's really important to have a system-to-system connection. Everything just really works really well when you have stuff like that, okay? The second part of the main line is we actually, as this group has said and others have said, we need another lane in the GAP, okay? So extend the express lane north, add another lane in the GAP, and then third phase would be to add another lane north of the GAP. So we call the recommendation a 1+1, all right? Now, adding the additional lane, we have not defined the operations of that additional lane yet, whether it's in the GAP or north of the GAP, right? It could be another express lane, it could be a general purpose lane, or it could be something for something like autonomous vehicles. We just don't know yet. We think that additional lane is a little bit further off in the future, so we're not defining that operations on purpose. And by the way, if you have questions, jump in. I'm going to try to keep you on schedule, but I'm here as long as you need me, okay? So I mentioned, or I didn't mention yet, but another part of the recommendation, so you have the main line, another important part of the recommendation is bus and rail, all right? And I'm very excited to talk about, there's some bus things being spun off of the PEL. The first thing that we noticed immediately, that you can make really good improvements to the existing Monument Park and Ride by getting buses in there more efficiently, making it safer for pedestrians, that kind of thing. So that's actually being planned and designed in Karen's shop, in John's shop right now, okay? The other thing is that the express lane under construction in the GAP, as you heard from Kathy, that's going to help move more people through the corridor with buses, all right? If we ever get to that express lane north of the GAP, makes it even better. Now that all of a sudden you can move a heck of a lot more people through the 34-mile corridor with all these transit options. And then lastly, the other sort of big bus thing going on is there's a lot of momentum being built over the last 4 months, 5 months or so, about a new mobility hub in Castle Rock. And that mobility hub would be a place to get buses connected in, rail at some point as well. So again, mainline recommendation, bus recommendations, and also rail. Okay? There's a big process underway right now called Front Range Passenger Rail. Okay? This is being led by a governor-appointed commission. And it's to study rail options along the Front Range between Pueblo and Fort Collins. All right? It seems like right now, early on, that the best operating segment, the most appealing operating segment, is really Colorado Springs to Lone Tree out of the whole Front Range corridor. That's enough I'll say about that a little bit later. So we have mainline recommendations, we have bus recommendations, we have rail stuff going on. The next thing to do was to figure out about how all these things fit together, okay? How they can be phased, how they can be implemented. We thought that was very important. So on April 5th, we got together a workshop with our technical working group. These are transportation people who work for cities and counties. Jen, we missed you, sorry. And they have been so instrumental to helping us deliver the gap and helping us finishing up the PEL. We thought, let's run some of these questions by them and get their ideas about how we fit these pieces together, right? So what we did is we broke out into small groups. We had 5 tables. One table was being led by Monument, Mayor Wilson. So Steve Sheffield led that table, and people like Tracy Sakaguchi were at that table. She's with the Colorado Motor Carriers Association. We had some CPW people there, some rail people there, and we had tables for Larkspur, Castle Rock, Castle Pines, and Lone Tree as well. And again, the purpose was to hear their thoughts and how we can fit these pieces together. And some of the highlights from that were, I mean, I could talk for hours. We had such a great workshop. But the port of entry on the south side of Monument Hill is a big topic of discussion, especially with the Monument table was brought up for a good portion of the time. And where that could be relocated to make both the interstate operate better, but also the port way station operate better. And it seems like everybody has their heart set on, at some point, trying to relocate that port of entry to where the old Larkspur rest areas are. Okay? And that had pretty good agreement amongst all the groups in the room. Okay? The other thing that was talked a lot about was the Monument Park and Ride and how both bus operations and pedestrian improvements could be made to that. A lot of good ideas came out of that. And again, we don't need to wait for some of that stuff because some of these are smaller sort of breakout projects, right? We can do these as we get money. We don't need to wait for a $360 or a $350 million agreement to come together. Other things that came up were Castle Rock really feels like, and others, not only Castle Rock, they may become the new gap. So that's made us rethink the phasing a little bit. So again, remember, extend the express lane north, add an additional lane in the gap, add an additional lane north of the gap. Well, that additional lane in the gap, does that really need to stop at Plum Creek Parkway, or do we really need to think about getting all the way maybe to Meadows Founders and Castle Rock? And those are some of the issues Castle Rock brought up. It's sort of complex, but it was really interesting. The other big things that got brought up were mobility hubs, bus stations, interchange operations. A lot of interchange problems out there that we need to start thinking about. The direct connect at E470, C470, as I mentioned, very important. There was representatives from E470, from the authority there at the workshop. And then also passenger rail. How important that's got to be as it gets developed and be part of the solution here. The last thing, and this was an oversight on my part, we never really thought about how sort of the bus and rail could connect into the Ridgegate station. Those of you who don't know, there's a brand new rail station opening up at Ridgegate next month. Okay, there will be 3 new light rail stops in Lone Tree, and and it'll end at the Ridge Gate interchange, which is on the south.
They don't know where Ridgegate is.
I know, I'm just trying to tell you.
Okay.
Which is at the south end of Lone Tree, ma'am? Do you know where Lone Tree is? So, okay. So Lone Tree is really, really growing fast. It's that area between like E470 and maybe like 3 miles, 4 miles south of E470, C470. That whole area is being come. Skyridge Hospital's there. Yep, exactly. Yeah, Charles Schwab just moved in there, big Charles Schwab. And so there's 3 light rail stops there, okay? The last one, the furthest one to the south, being at Ridgegate Station. And we never really thought how rail or bus could connect into there. And it's an RTD station. It's not a CDOT station, so it's a Regional Transportation District station. But we need to start thinking about that. The last thing I'll say is at the workshop, another big topic of conversation that's not up there, but we talked about a lot, where there's these small projects. They don't really fix the problems, the safety, the travel reliability problems on their own, but they are great when you combine them with the big ticket items. They work really well in conjunction with. And again, some of these smaller things like adding in auxiliary lanes, adding in climbing lanes, chain stations, moving the port of entry, they could be done as money comes available, and it will help the corridor out. So what's left on the PEL? We had this big workshop. We're trying to figure out how to phase and implement these things. We have public meetings coming up, May 14th at Lewis Palmer, all right, May 16th at Douglas County Fairgrounds. And we're going to wrap this planning and environmental leakage study up the end of May. The other thing we're doing right now is we're closely following another group who is leading the traffic and revenue study that's kind of going on concurrently with our planning and environmental leakage study. So what this traffic and revenue study team is looking at is how attractive is it to finance the express lane from what we have today in the gap north to E470. Could there be financing partners out there, or could there be low-interest loans that could help build this? Because many people think that's the next thing that's on the horizon, hopefully in the near term. Yeah. So with that, I'll take questions.
Are there any questions? Bruce?
Yes.
Oh.
Have you guys, I don't know if this is possible or not, but have you looked into like restricting truck traffic at peak hours or lane restrictions and things like that? Would that be of any value?
We did look at that. The Colorado Motor Carriers has been an important stakeholder from the beginning. Okay, again, $60 billion worth of freight moved the corridor. And that group really has opposed that. Okay, now we are planning to put up signs that say slower traffic, keep right, and we are building a climbing lane as part of the GAP construction project. It's a short one, but we are getting a climbing lane in there. So we're hoping to help with that a little bit, but we are not planning to restrict by the hour truck traffic.
Okay. Commissioner?
Yes, thank you. First of all, appreciate the presentation and the updates. But if I knew how to make that highway a 4-lane highway without any additional cost, would you be interested?
I would.
Okay. So may I make the suggestion?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So it's something that I've done a lot of research on, and I'm an industrial engineer. I deal with process efficiencies and queuing theory. It's the kind of stuff I've done when I was an engineer. So one of the challenges for highways is obviously highway safety. And one of the biggest drivers for highway safety is lane density. Lane density drives safety challenges. The denser the lane, the lower the safety. Correct. The second most important driver for safety is vehicles that change lanes, going from one lane to another. That causes safety issues because people might not see a car or what have you, right? So keep in mind that we have 3 lanes south of the gap and we have 3 lanes north of the gap, but we have 2 lanes in the gap. And I'm going to recommend that what we should have in the gap is 3 general purpose lanes and a 4th lane that is a combined HOV toll lane. Where you can place that lane without actually adding any width to the road is on the inside emergency lane where you already have a 15-foot path. And in your current design, going from the outside to the inside, you have a 12-foot emergency, 2 12-foot general purpose, a 4-foot buffer, a 12-foot toll, and a 15-foot inside emergency. So the change in the design configuration would be 12-foot outside emergency, 3 general purpose at 12, then the 4-foot buffer, then use the inside 15 to make your toll lane, which you turn on and off as needed when the density on the highway gets too high. Now, this might sound like a little bit of a radical idea about using that inside emergency lane as your 4th lane for the toll, except that CDOT already does that on eastbound I-70 going from the ski resorts into Denver. So you are already using this model, and I believe you're using this model to great success right now to deal with a tough situation on east I-70 when you have the big skiing crowds.
That's correct. We're also looking at it north of the Gap, too.
Okay, excellent. I'll also make the point that because you now, in this highway design consideration that I'm offering to you, you end up with 3 GP lanes south, 3 GP lanes in the Gap, 3 GP lanes up north, which means you have a lower density per lane, which is a safety driver, and because you have a direct hookup of 3 lanes all the way through the entire system, this reduces the number of vehicles changing lanes, going left and right, both of which are safety enhancers. And then having 4 lanes is perhaps the best way, the best design to pursue what CDOT is pursuing, which is guaranteed reliability, trying to make sure you have a single lane that always operates at highway speeds. I'll make the point that this design that I'm proposing to you will actually deliver that better and deliver it longer than the current design. So this is what I'm interested in having a dialogue about. It doesn't require any additional paving. It uses the exact same footprint that you intend on delivering under the current program, and it would not add any extra cost because all you would really be doing is moving the toll lane left 1 lane. I'll also make the point that for when the toll lane is closed, which you do also on eastbound I-70, you open it and close it based on needs, so it's the exact same model. When you close it, you would have an inside emergency lane that would be the 4-foot buffer, the 12-foot lane, and the remaining 3 feet. So you would have a 19-foot inside safety lane, which is better than the 15-foot inside safety lane that you have now. And the only time when you would not have access to that 19 feet is when the toll lane is turned on, which I don't know how long that would be, but with 3 general purpose lanes, it might only be 2 to 4 hours a day. Something like that. So I feel like there's a design out there that's a better design than what we're chasing. And one last point, sorry to take so much time, but one last point. So in the process of kind of thinking of the whole thing as a system, when you do direct link 3 lane to 3 lane to 3 lane all the way through there, you put the toll lane in the left. This gives you an opportunity now to do that toll lane both north and south as a direct link-up throughout the entire corridor, which actually I think simplifies a lot of issues for follow-on investment on the highway. So this is something I feel very strongly about, and I wanted to share it with you all. And I don't know how to get there from here. I hope CDOT would take it under serious consideration and see if there's an opportunity to do this. I think it would really, really help. I think it would enhance safety. I think it would reduce aggregate wait times. It'll still deliver the toll lane, which I know you've been directed by CTC to put in. So I think it meets every single criteria and actually makes the highway safer for us citizens. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. That is an option we did look at in the EA, though.
So what happened?
Yeah, so there were a couple things real quickly, and we can talk maybe after this week. That was brought up by a lot of people, and it seems like, at first, John and I were like, this thing may have merit, we need to look at it. But when we start to look at it more, there isn't enough room to do all that without sacrificing the sort of the incident management benefit we were building into the new construction project. So when you start taking away shoulder space and that kind of thing, you start to sacrifice a lot of that. Also, we didn't think we could be able to build that sort of thing the correct way, with the correct shoulders, within the right-of-way that we were giving. And that was a key to delivering this project in 8 months. I mean, we broke records. We got an EA done in 5 months, and approval in 7, and we delivered it in 8. If we start to go outside right-of-way and try to incorporate some of those ideas, we'd still be here talking about how do we get the right-of-way for that. I think your idea has a lot of merit. I just don't think we could have done it as easy as I think it seems on the surface. Yeah.
Well, we can continue that discussion afterwards, and I will. I'll mention to you that I will respectfully disagree with those points. Okay.
Understood.
Okay. More discussion to follow. Any other questions while Chuck's up at the podium? Okay. Thank you, Chuck. I will just add one thing, since Chuck mentioned it several times. The Front Range Passenger Rail Commission meeting will be held here at PPACG on Friday. It's the first time the meeting has been held anywhere except Denver. So we are very excited to be hosting it right here in this room at 10 a.m. We have sent out a press release. We're trying to get media there to really begin building awareness for what the commission is doing. And as you probably know, I currently chair the commission, so we have a lot of opportunity to have a strong voice on what they're doing right now. So please come if you have time. Anything else, Chuck?
Thank you for having me.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Be safe out there.
Likewise, drive safely. And thanks for bringing the swag. Okay, I think we are now on to reports. We'll start with military installations. I'm not sure, should we start over here? Is it Colonel Finkelstein? I'm sorry, I'm not going to try that again.
No, you're close enough. So the Air Force Academy keeps on keeping on. We have graduation coming. It's in May, the 30th of May, but we have started to make preparations for that. For everyone's awareness, the Air Force has extended an invitation to the President, who has not formally accepted. So there is a chance that they may be the President may be the graduation speaker, but nothing official. We'll have significant change out this summer with the Dean leaving, the Commandant leaving, and Colonel Campbell, the Air Base Wing Commander, all leaving and going on to other things. The new Visitor Center, EUL, extended use lease, that continues to run lots of wickets from environmental assessments and other processes that need to go to make that very complicated situation work. Everything seems to be on track and continuing to move. And then finally, the chapel, just like I said last time, was back on, and now it's back off. The Air Force has 2 Air Force bases that need significant recovery, Tyndall Air Force Base from a hurricane and Offutt from severe flooding. So they've basically recalled some of the money for projects across the Air Force. The chapel is one of those projects. It is not canceled. It's just been delayed until those funds are made available again.
Okay.
So that's the Air Force Academy in a nutshell. Any questions?
Thank you. I have one addition, which is completely just personal. I was pretty excited during this last NCAA men's basketball tournament to see prior cadet Matt Mooney play for Texas Tech and take that team all the way to the national championship game. So, I thought that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think the Air Force Academy would be less excited about it. They want him to stay at the Air Force Academy.
Well, didn't he graduate?
No, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
I think he transferred after 1 year from
Okay.
the academy, which cadets aren't committed to their full service until after they come back from their sophomore year.
Got it. Still exciting.
In addition, one of the assistant coaches for Virginia was a coach at the Air Force Academy.
Well, there you go.
And if I could point out, my alma mater, University of
Yes,
Virginia,
they did.
won!
Virginia won. Virginia won. Okay. Ron?
Oh, no.
Rod.
It's redemption.
Redemption.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, board members, for the opportunity to let you know what's happening at Schriever Air Force Base. First item that I'll mention is we had the pleasure of hosting Ms. Shoshana Liu, the Colorado Department of Transportation Executive Director, at a visit at Schriever Air Force Base, joined by others, including Karen Rowe and Andy Gunning, to find out what it is that we do at Schriever, to receive a mission briefing, and then to go on a tour of our second Space Operations Squadron, which operates our nation's GPS satellite constellation. So I thought it was a good visit, and certainly we appreciate Ms. Liu's willingness to advocate for additional funding for Highway 94 improvements and to help ensure a safe and reliant access to Schriever Air Force Base. So we certainly appreciate everybody who participated in that visit and highlighting the work that we're doing at Schriever Air Force Base. Another key visit that we had just yesterday is Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Caleb Wright, visited Schriever Air Force Base, again, to find out what it is that we're doing at Schriever Air Force Base, the contribution that we make to our nation's space capabilities. It was a good visit. We were proud to host the Air Force's most senior enlisted member and advisor to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force and the Secretary of the Air Force. So I think he got a good appreciation for the great work that our Schriever airmen do every single day of the year. The final note that I'll pass along is Team Schriever will host a State of the Base briefing on April 25th. It's scheduled for 8:30 in the morning. The invitations have already gone out, so RSVPs are due back to our public affairs folks by the 15th of April, and we look forward to hosting everybody who can make it out there to find out what's going on at Schriever, what we're doing now, what we project to be doing in the future, and certainly Colonel Grant, our wing commander, will be providing that information directly to those folks participating. Unless there are any questions, that's all I've got to talk about this morning.
Wonderful. Any questions? Okay, Colonel Fitch.
Yes, good morning. On behalf of Colonel Moore, thank you for the opportunity to come share what's going on in Peterson. We also have the pleasure of a visit from Ms. Liu, and guided by CDOT and PPACG. Grateful for your participation. We were able to showcase our mission at Peterson and all of our globally separated units, or geographically separated units, as well as be able to highlight our traffic and growth potential and future traffic concerns. So we were able to head out to the East Gate, which is always a safety concern for us, and identify for everybody involved the key points. Following that, we were also, our staff has also met with city traffic to discuss installing immediate safety measures, reducing speed outside the East Gate, coming down that hill, as well as additional signage. So we appreciate all the support to increase the safety measures outside the East Gate and the further discussions that we're having about permanent stoplights with the city and all players. In addition to that, we continue to work a private property issue that's a security concern north of buildings 2 and 3, but we appreciate the county's support and continue to discuss how we'll work with the owner to resolve those. On Friday, I believe in the last message we mentioned, or the last meeting we mentioned that the 721st Mission Support Group up at Cheyenne Mountain Air Station would be inactivated. That was part of a grand merger of the 21st Mission Support Group at Peterson and the 721st that has historically supported only Cheyenne Mountain. We've gained efficiencies in manning and a lot of processes and cut overhead there. And so we'll see that. But Colonel Aguilar, who is normally here for this meeting, will continue to oversee the 21st Mission Support Group at Peterson and should see no changes in mission operations. Lastly, I will mention that the 22nd through the 26th of April is our Front Range exercise. So all of the installations on the Front Range will be participating in scenarios to exercise our capabilities. You may hear of anything from a scenario of a mass casualty to water contamination, think E. coli, all scenarios for the exercise. If there are any questions or clarification, please reach out to our command post. That's the 22nd through the 26th of April.
Okay, any questions? Penny, any questions? Okay, thanks. Dan?
Okay, and then I just have one thing to add. Colonel Moore should be sending out sometime this week invitation to our next Air Force Community Partnership meeting. We're holding that on 1 May at 1300, and UC Health is hosting that meeting. So be on the lookout for that invite this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Rod?
Good morning again. Just like our blue partners in the Air Force, being the host, Miss Liu, the Army, we made her go green for the time we had her down there, showed her the installation, particularly of interest, and Karen was there, and we certainly appreciate Region 2's support as well. But what particularly of interest was our Gate 19, which was being developed. It's on the boundary of the installation, kind of going towards I-25 in the Fountain area. And there's been support by PPACG in the past to work a Defense Access Road project with different grants, different monies. That's progressing. Not to get any details, but it was very good to get on-site verification by key leaders that can help influence the funding of that project going forward. And it's still a priority in the Army right now that has not fallen off. A lot of things have fallen off, money being diverted to many other projects. But that one is still holding right now, so we're hopeful that it'll get funded. And as was briefed at the Air Force Academy, with a lot of changeover this summer, I think we were going to have every general officer and all of our 06 full colonel commands will be changing except for two.
Wow.
The garrison commander, woohoo, and the hospital commander will still remain in place, but just about everybody else will change out. So as those key ceremonies and events get scheduled, and I'll bring that information back to the board.
Great, thank you. Okay, is that completing our military? Just forget anybody? Okay, I think we're going to go on to our committees, starting with mobility. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi. So I'm a new face to joining you here, but I'm an old face to some of you. It's nice to see some friends that I have known in many lives in the past. My name is Miley Gray.
Miley Gray.
Oh, wait. Hello. Sorry. Okay. My name is Miley Gray. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit here in town called Drive Smart Colorado. We do traffic safety education. We don't do driver training. We educate people on things that they should already be doing and know, like put down your phone when you're driving, wear your seat belt, don't use substances when you're driving, and all those logical things that many of our citizens don't seem to remember when they get behind the wheel of a car. What brought me to the Mobility Coordinating Committee was several years ago, we received a grant through the Colorado Department of Transportation to work with the older driver, of which I am one, in our community, and we have since spread it statewide. Our goal is to help older citizens remain in their car for as long as it is safe for them to do so, and then when they can't any longer, to transition to that passenger and hopefully or possibly use some of our transportation options in our community. And so we feel that it's a direct connect there, and I'm very, very happy to be in this position of your new chair. So that is that's my background. So I know I'm just supposed to report on the committee, but I figured many of you would probably go on like, who are you? So anyway, basically, I'm new to the position. First meeting was in January, I believe, so this is we've only done a few since I've been at the helm. And I think that one thing that I've noticed over the past several years is sort of a dwindling participation in members who attend. So that is one topic that we're really addressing, and we addressed it at the last meeting. And we would like to make sure that we have good representation from all of the communities that are supposed to be participating in the Mobility Coordinating Committee. And I know that there's some communities sitting around the table here that I'd like to remind them to appoint somebody to our committee and hopefully participate. We're also going to get very active in having a Polycom or an ability to call in so that our members who are unable to make it to the meeting can then still participate in the meeting, even though sometimes Polycom's a little confusing when you're on the other end. But at least we're going to make an attempt because we have far-reaching partners, Park County and other parts of Teller County that are not coming, and we would really like their attendance so that we can make sure that we're making decisions and coming up with ideas that really represent the entire area that we're supposed to be involved with. So anyhow, if we've just encouraged people, if they do know of anybody who could be appointed, to please do so. So I would like to extend that to any member here who represents another community. Also, one of the major things that we have just been asked to do is to review our bylaws. The bylaws have not been updated or amended since 2013. And so we did form a small, so at the last meeting, we had volunteers join me on a very small subcommittee where we did take a look at the bylaws and the responsibilities of the Mobility Coordinating Committee, and we've given those to Joe Urban, and so at some point, y'all will look at them and make decisions if that's the direction that you would like to see them go. So that's coming. We also want to make sure that we're going to send around a sign-up sheet so that members of the committee can make presentations, can tell a little bit about their group. I think one of the main focuses of the MCC, I'm just going to call it MCC, okay? The MCC is for connection and networking and face-to-face interaction, because when you see a face, well, we all know, it's hard to do things over the phone sometimes. You have to know the person. So we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to share exactly what's going on in their world and bring up ideas for the future. We want to share training opportunities. I mean, I have some ideas for some new presentations, and we just would like to kind of broaden the scope a little bit. I am not in the moving people realm, and so that's kind of new to me. I'm learning as we go about all of those who are in the actual transporting of people around our community. So I kind of let those experts talk, and I'll just kind of help guide them along. So I think that's the main thing. I guess I do want to just say that we have our small little group that met on the bylaws also just started really brainstorming kind of off as a sidebar, I guess, while we were all sitting around the table, talking about what we would like to see, some real goals and attainable goals that we might be able to reach within a year, come back and really sort of rejuvenate the MCC. So I look forward to sharing those with you in the future as we discuss them, and hopefully you all will agree that some of our ideas are positive for our community. So I also want to say one more thing that is way off topic. All of our military partners, I want to thank you because, well, first of all, thank you for everything you do. But I also want to let you know, in case you don't know it, Drive Smart Colorado has been a long-time partner with all of our military partners through your safety, security, police forces, and they attend our monthly steering committee meetings, and we work in partnership, going on post, on bases, to bring our expertise on traffic safety education to your community and your families. So I just wanted to thank you for allowing that to continue to flourish. It's very, very important for us. And I do sit at the Colorado Springs Police Department, and so we just all work together in this common, trying to get people where they want to go safely, and really appreciate that. So thanks for your support with us. Anybody have any questions? Hopefully I can answer.
Any questions? Mayor?
Real quick, when is your next meeting? When are your regular meetings?
Our regular meetings are the second Tuesday of every month at 9:30 in the morning at the Gold Hill substation of the Colorado Springs Police Department, just over here off of Moreno. And they follow the Pikes Peak Region DUI Task Force, which starts at 8:30 in the morning, which I helped found in 2000 oh, you mean the MCC?
MCC, yeah.
All right, what hat am I wearing? They are the fourth Tuesday of every month at 9:30 in this room.
Fourth Tuesday.
And of course, you're also welcome to come to the Drive Smart meetings.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Miley.
Oh, you're very
Sounds
welcome.
like you have new energy on the MCC, so I look forward to hearing about what you're going to be doing.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have transportation. Brandy? Oh, stop.
Brandy Williams, Chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee. We had a nice, short meeting that was fantastic. We approved TIP Amendment number 8. That was pretty much the big ticket item. So any questions?
Any questions for Brandy? Short but sweet?
Yes, it was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thanks.
Okay. Are we back on schedule, Mayor? Okay. He's keeping track of me today and whether we stay on schedule. I think he wants to get back over the pass before the storm. Okay. Oh, Good morning.
Good morning. Dave Betzler, Chair of the Regional Advisory Council. And just keeping with that precedent that's been set, you have the minutes before you for the last RAC meeting. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
It appears we skipped the CAC. Sharon here? Okay. What? I know. Well, Dave was, right on time there.
Hi, Courtney Stone. I'm the second vice chair of the CAC, standing in for Sharon Brown today, our chair. In keeping with tradition, no big call-outs outside of tip amendment number 8. I did want to call out, though, from your last bomb cyclone meeting, that there was an item on your agenda to approve membership for NEPCO, the Northern El Paso County Coalition of Community Associations, who requested a membership seat on the CAC. When they requested that membership seat, we kind of looked at each other and weren't sure what that process would look like because we hadn't had that request come up in the past. And so we currently have a membership policy subcommittee who has met twice and will be bringing forward more formal recommendations to the CAC from you at your next meeting. But just to let you know why that agenda item was removed, and you have access in our notes to some of that context if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you, Courtney.
We'll
Any
see you next
questions for Courtney? Sharon?
It's not necessarily a question, but it's the different groups that are looking at their bylaws right now. I've looked through a couple of them, and I would encourage you guys to not only look at like your membership thing, but to come in line with the notification that we adopted last year with the 24 hours email. I think some of you guys are still like at 5 days and physical mail, so it might be a little easier for your groups if all that came into a line and you looked at that as well as other things within your bylaws.
Well, and I would suggest all the committees have similar bylays that are all kind of an
and-
alignment.
Yeah, and so.
Okay, in
Thank
general.
you.
Okay, thank you,
Appreciate it.
Courtney. Air quality, I don't know.
Sure,
Are you
I'll
leading
handle that just real briefly. They continue to meet. I think we're making pretty good progress. They decided at their meeting in March that for April, we're going to actually hold a work session, kind of roll up our sleeves and start identifying public outreach messages and things we can do to raise community awareness about air quality issues and our ozone emission issues in particular. There's some really good material that's been developed by other communities, including up in the Denver region. They have a Simple Steps Cleaner Air campaign where there are relatively minor things that we as individuals and businesses can do to reduce emissions, just kind of relatively minor steps, but they can add up to cumulatively have a large effect as far as reducing emissions throughout the region. So we're going to have a work session with our regular committee members, plus some other public information folks and public affairs and communication staff from the different jurisdictions and utilities and other stakeholders to figure out how we can start getting the word out to let people know that this is serious, it's a public health issue, and that we can all play a part in reducing our emissions. Okay?
It's great to hear. Are there any questions? Okay, what about water? You have anything
No
on that?
reports.
Just
They've
on your-
recommended the site application you have on your agenda today, but otherwise just moving forward on their regional water quality management plan.
Okay, great, thank you. CDOT, Karen? Good morning.
Hi, sorry about that. Shoshana Lou did come down and tour the military bases. We also got a presentation from the Chamber of Commerce on the economic impact of the military bases for the area. I think it was good for her to understand how big influence these military bases are to the state of Colorado. She did issue a press release saying that she supports the infrastructure improvements needed to support the military bases. No specifics, but she talked about at each of the areas the transportation needs for each of them that might be needed, and specifically the safety improvements on State Highway 94. We did also talk about Port Carson and their need for that Gate 19 connection, and the benefit to that is that people coming from Pueblo or even people from the city of Fountain would relieve a lot of the congestion on exit 132, which is Gate 20 or State Highway 16. People could leave the base on the south end and go to Pueblo and come in that way, and it would reduce vehicle miles traveled, it would reduce the interchange need impact on the one further north, which is really at capacity. So one of the things that we are working on, and it's not approved yet, but I am proposing that I-25 from 135 which is South Academy, to Fountain, 128, be part of a build grant application. And so we have infra grants, which are based on freight, and build grants are the former Tiger applications. It's more transportation generic, and there is a build grant funding notice of application coming out. And so we're getting ready for that. And so if anyone's driven that, you can see the pavement's really bad. And so we may be reaching out to our partners to talk about either funding, sharing, or support, or at least letters of support for the project. So what we're looking at is concrete paving from South Academy to Fountain. Now, if we do that, because of phasing, we would widen the shoulders also, but those shoulders are needed to be widened. So I always call that my mini gap area because it's very similar configuration. We have a lot of the same problems that we do on the gap. Also, the major problem there is there's no median barrier. So we've had 2 fatalities this calendar year from median crossover crashes. And we've had 8 in the last 5 years. That's 8 miles long. 5 years, we've had 8 fatalities. So if you look at the gap, 18 miles long, 5 years, we had 5 fatalities. So you had 1 per year in the gap. And you had 8 fatalities in the last 5 years on that section.
Can you explain I don't understand, what is that crossover median?
Okay,
what is that?
So if you look further down south, we have cable rail barriers, or even between Circle and South Academy, you have guardrail that prevents traffic from crossing over from the northbound to the southbound lanes. That's the median, right? We have not constructed, there's guardrail on portions of that section, but not the whole section. So I think...
so people actually go into the median and try to turn around?
No. So they accidentally
lose
cross
control.
over at high volumes.
Got it. Okay, sorry.
So the accident where the 18-month-old that I mentioned last meeting passed away, the lady was northbound, hit another car, ended up going over the grass and into the southbound lanes. Yeah.
And got hit. Yeah, so, and in January, we had somebody going southbound, and I don't know the exact, all the details, but they were slowed down or stopped, and somebody rear-ended them, and it pushed them into the southbound lanes. So they went through the grass median and got hit. Now, I haven't spent $4 million to construct cable rail barrier around there because I know when I pave it, I'm going to want to widen it too. So some of the accidents also are because of that 4-foot inside shoulder. They hit the guardrail that is there, but then they bounce back into oncoming traffic, or not oncoming traffic, but into the traffic. So if we widen to 12-foot shoulders, you can allow emergency vehicles through, you can allow broken vehicles through. It allows some recovery area for vehicles. So that's what we'd look at. We'd look at widening the shoulders, concrete paving. We're going to work with El Paso County to see if we can, they have some money designated for that old Charter Ranch Road. And also there's some STIP Metro money there, but they're short on what that project would cost. So if we can partner together and make it one big project, we're hoping. So we have surface treatment dollars, we have faster safety dollars, we have some bridge dollars, but we just don't have enough to do the full project. So we have like $45 million, we need like $60 million. With the El Paso County project added in there, we would need more, but we'd try to pursue a build grant, mainly on a safety perspective, but it also helps improve the pavement. So we will submit it to CDOT for consideration, and then they'll discuss it at STAC as to whether that would be a good application.
Karen, I got a question for you. Excuse my ignorance. What's the value of concrete relative to asphalt and the life of concrete relative to asphalt?
It's complicated is the answer, but we go through what's called a life cycle cost analysis, meaning that we look at over a 50-year period, and you put certain assumptions in for asphalt versus concrete, but you look at that specific section of road. So that road has poor subgrade, meaning it's soft subgrade, so the concrete seems to be the better solution there. It should hold up longer. Again, it's usually like a 30-year period before you have to do, but you do some intermediate maintenance. We did asphalt pave that 2 inches and 2 inches back, I think it was, in 2007, and it just hasn't lasted very well. You can see the rutting, it's pretty bad. So the concrete over the 50-year life, we call life cycle cost analysis, is a cheaper alternative. So it's a little bit more upfront, but it's beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, excuse me, Dick Elsner, Park County. I do have one concern. You guys are spending an awful lot of money making really nice wide shoulders and emergency lanes, and you talk about fatalities. So far this year, in about I think 12 miles between Fairplay and Jefferson, we have had 3 fatalities. We have no shoulders. We have no access. I was supposed to be in a meeting in Fairplay last night. I couldn't get there because 285 was closed because of another fatality. I really appreciate all the work you're doing down here, but with all of the new people that are going up to the ski areas and looking for alternate routes, Highway 9, Highway 24, and Highway 285 are just getting overrun. And I fear that we're going to end up with a much higher number of fatalities on those roads because the pavement is really starting to fall apart with all the trucks, and of course it's been a really good winter for us. And I really think that CDOT needs to start looking at doing something for some of these other roads in the mountains to make them safer, because I think we're going to end up probably surpassing your fatality rate on I-25 between Colorado Springs and Denver. I will bet that by the end of this year, 285 will have more. Thank you.
We'll look at that. We will. So another thing I wanted to just mention, Shoshana Liu is scheduled to come in May to this board meeting. She will be talking about our new planning process. And so we will be going out in the next 4 months to 4 to 5 months, and we're going to combine the transit and highway planning process. Her emphasis is safety. She thinks that this new, we're going out and listening. What do you guys want? What are we doing? She's a real proponent of safety. One of her goals is to reduce the severity and accidents. She's looking at putting more funding towards safety, rerouting other funding that we have going to other things to safety. So she'll probably talk about it. I will look at that. Again, sometimes you look at the length of the highway too. So like I said, this is an 8-mile stretch. So, but we will look at 285. We do have the passing lanes going in between Otero Junction and Fairplay this summer. And that's so I wanted to mention too, in terms of surface treatment, we do have, we had bids come in to repave US 24 West between I-25 and Manitou Springs. So if you're driving that and you're like, God, this is terrible, we know it will be night paving project. We will improve the safety at the intersection at 21st Street, and we'll be repairing our bridges for State Highway 24 over Colorado Avenue. So that project's coming up, and we're at least, we're doing what we can. But we will look at that, and I just wanted to mention she will be coming here, and then I'll come to the Front Range Rail and meeting, and so.
Great. Well, I'm
You'll hear more about that.
She'll be here at our meeting. Stan?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Karen, for the update. With regard to the possible cooperation, between other public agencies, including the county and CDOT for other work, I think you're talking about southern El Paso County I-25. If there's value in making the dollars stretch with regard to a partnership, I'm all in. But I just want you to be very, very sensitive to the fact that El Paso County has 2,100 miles of roads and a $200 million shortfall in repairs and construction. And when we talk, in my head, I think in $100,000 terms for projects, not $1 million terms for projects, because our contribution to the I-25 widening project was multiple years of our overlay budget that we sacrificed in order to do it. So we just operated on a completely different scale of dollars, and we have a $200 million shortfall. And then with the unfunded mandates coming down, we did a ballot measure 2 years ago to try to rectify that $200 million shortfall, and now we've got a bunch of unfunded mandates that's probably going to eat up a third of the money that we were able to acquire because of that ballot measure to give us relief on Tabor. And so we're being squeezed by one part of the state giving us unfunded mandates, and then all of these requirements for partnerships and cost sharing. And we have our own requirements that we have to try to figure out how to resolve as well. So I just ask you to be very sensitive to that. Thank you.
No, I recognize that. So I'll be working with Jennifer and then you guys to see if it's a good fit, but we're trying to get you more money. So I think it's like $1.5 million El Paso dollars. It's STIP Metro that's going to expire and you're going to need to return if you don't spend it. And then we would try to fund that gap that's there, $6 million of gap. We try to get you a grant for that. So we're working through, it's a new idea, we're just throwing that out there that we would like to see if we can help get El Paso County some money for that purely El Paso County project, but in partnership with us.
Great.
And my response to that is thank you very much. Always interested in partnerships where we can get the taxpayer dollars to go further. And I will also make the point that there's a bunch of other stuff CDOT has been doing for us that has been awesome. So don't take that as criticism in any way. It's just about being sensitive to what we have. Thanks.
Thank you. Holly?
Yeah, on the mini gap, this is just an idea. We don't need to have discussion on it. I don't drive down there a lot, but if there would be a way that maybe if we wanted to do a frontage road between 128 and 135 on the west side so that Fort Carson...
I own that land.
On Sharon's land, so that, Fort Carson, they can go through the two gates, I'm excited about the Gate 19 access. There's a serious problem at the other gate that maybe if we could divert traffic going down to another gate, but that's just in your design phase, not for discussion today.
We're always here to provide options, ideas. Okay, anyone else?
Actually, is a road.
Okay. Stack? Thank you, Karen, by the way.
Stack, I'll delay for a second as he's making his way to the podium. We did hear from the Executive Director, Shoshana Liu, at the last Stack meeting, and with that, John, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The Stack met on the 22nd of March. As Karen has already mentioned, the big topic of discussion that probably took the longest amount of time was the planning reset. I think as far as you all need to sort of have in the back of your minds, at least beginning, is that there's going to be a consolidation of a lot of the different plans. Instead of having a transit plan and a long-range plan and these other things, they're going to be combined more. So there's going to be a little more cooperation and consolidation of some of the different efforts. So that's coming down the road. We did specifically ask to make sure that any of the standing funding allocations that are on the books, if any of these were going to be impacted, and we have been assured that everything should be fine, so it's not an end around to redivvy the money and move it to a different part of the state, which will remain nameless. The other thing that I think we'd like to mention, I think two other things. Commissioner Elsner, I don't know if you want to briefly touch on the presentation by the Colorado Transportation Wildlife Alliance, but I do know that there was some concern that CDOT has a lot of the effort was being spent in one part of Colorado where there's other parts of Colorado that could use that. Do you want me to continue or want to go ahead and jump in?
Well, I'll just make a quick comment. I did talk with them. Right now, they're working on the other regions, the western region, and of course, if you look at our side, we've got some counties that are very much in the woods. They are planning on expanding that over the next few months to include, looking at ways in Teller County and Park County to figure out how to get the wildlife from one side of the road to the other side of the road in one piece.
But it is a development of a toolbox of solutions, because as we were actually having that presentation, I think a lot of our phones were going off from the local news saying that Cimarron had been closed because of a deer strike or elk strike or whatever they are, with horns versus not or whatever. Can you tell I'm from Arizona? I really, yeah. And then finally, there was a presentation on the Federal Lands Access Program, and again, that's another ability for a funding opportunity. Mostly at this part, it's the recreational, but we did receive clarification that military bases are eligible. as public lands, however, not the favorite son of the folks that are doing the divvying up of the funding. And so with that, that was pretty much the stack presentation.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay. Andy.
Okay, Madam Chair, just a couple things real briefly. I'm going to introduce a new employee that we just brought on board last week. Had the pleasure of introducing a few, come on up, Philip. Introducing
Philip.
new, fantastic, really talented individuals we've been hiring over the past couple of months, and Philip is the latest installation. Philip Roy joined us last week as a GIS analyst, came from the private sector, I forget the name.
Well, from the Air Force Academy,
Air Force Academy,
basically.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
a contractor there.
Yeah. So Philip joins our GIS team, which is an awesome team we're building now with our GIS and mapping and modeling capabilities. So welcome, Philip. Joins a great list of really talented folks we brought on board here the past couple of months. So
great.
really want to welcome Philip to the team, and you'll see him out and about in various projects. So,
Okay.
yeah, thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Philip.
Secondly, and I'm not going to rehash this, you heard about the fantastic visit last week with the Executive Director, CDOT, Shoshana Liu. I do want to have a shout out to two folks who were really instrumental in pulling that together. Don Addy with the Colorado Springs 30 Group was really the kind of driving force behind making this happen. And I know he coordinated quite a bit with Rocky Scott, our Transportation Commissioner, as well. So they couldn't be here today, but really kudos to Don and to Rocky for making that happen. Just an awesome visit. I think she spent about 10 hours down here with us and really showed a great level of engagement and interest in what's going on in our region. So we really appreciate that. And as Karen mentioned, Shoshana will be down here for our meeting, your board meeting in May, so we're excited about that. Last item I wanted to mention is, and if we can bring the slide up or the one image, we're going through a logo redesign effort. And this is, it's been needed for a while. When I got here a little over a year ago, we realized that our signs, especially coming in the back door here to the AAA, are really faded, incredibly difficult to read, especially with high visitation back there, seniors with vision issues on occasion, and we just really needed to update our signage, especially for the AAA on the back door. But as we started doing that, we also realized that it's probably time to update our overall PPACG logo as well and make that a little more contemporary, have a little more consistency between our overall logo and some of our program logos between the AAA that was being redesigned. We have a transportation logo that we've been using for our long-range transportation plan efforts, and also with our joint land use study as a separate logo as well. So I'm not sure we'll be able to bring it up today, but I'll send this out to the board. Our hope is that we can keep moving forward with this. We've got money to spend for AAA signage between now and the end of June, expires June 30th. So we'd like to get it finalized, the final design, with everybody's concurrence so we can move forward with that and start with our signage production. But really appreciate Melissa Martz, who took the lead with the AAA signage, and also Jenny Phillips. Everybody knows Jenny, did an awesome job with our redesign efforts. So I will make sure I get that out to everybody. Oh, here it is. That's the overall logo that you see, similar to the current image we have, but it's something that's more. I think the current one has a road. It's just sort of washed out and reproduced so many times it's really hard to see. But you'll see the AAA logo on the top here really addresses our key function where we provide answers, assistance, and advocacy for seniors throughout the region. So we really are liking the look of this, and it's going to be consistent with our overall look and feel as well. We're doing a lot of really new, exciting things between the strategic plan that you all adopted last fall, giving us direction on what to do as far as advocacy and convening and collaboration. So we felt it's time for a new look as far as our design and materials we put out and other publications. So I will blast this out to everybody. If you have any questions, suggestions, observations, feel free to send those back my way. But otherwise, we're going to keep moving along.
Can you
scroll down?
The other
two that are on there, the joint land use and moving forward, are ones that have been in effect for
Right,
the last.
right. Those are existing logos.
Yeah.
We've already been using them. We've got them up there to show you how we are trying to keep the alignment. So you kind of like a mountain peak.
Kind of the mountains. I really like the idea, so they look good. And Yolanda, I will describe them to you later in great detail. Yeah, we'll get a big blow up on
Yeah,
it.
we can print out a large version for sure. Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay,
that
that's
you-
all I've got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. So the last thing we have is to go around and see if any members have announcements. We'll start over here with Yolanda. You have any? Okay. Andy, Sharon.
10 years ago, Fountain passed a transportation tax, and one of the things in addition to buses was quiet the trains at the citizens' request. And as of Friday, when you come to Fountain, probably a third, Brandy? Oh, she left. Brandy's been working her tail off.
Yes, she has.
A third to half of them will be quiet, and the rest, as the railroad approves them, will be done. So
Fabulous.
watch for the trains, please.
Right. Congratulations and happy anniversary. Mayor?
Lots going on, but nothing in particular to report.
Okay. Cammie?
I just wanted to point out that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and many of your local entities, I believe there's a resolution scheduled for you guys, City Council yesterday, you guys as well, Manitou. In the next few weeks, we kind of tried to spread out the ability to just keep talking about child abuse prevention at all of the entities within El Paso County. As you know, our Department of Human Services, they're really the ones on the front lines dealing with that, but it takes all of us as community partners, so thank you all very much.
Great. Thank you. Bruce? No? Dick?
I just want to say that I believe April 21st, Summit Stage is starting bus service from Fairplay over to Breckenridge. It'll be 2 buses in the morning, 2 buses in the evening. Anybody that wants to go to Breckenridge, please stop in Fairplay in the morning, catch the bus, because if it's successful, we're going to try to add one in the middle of the day also.
Fabulous. Thank you for that information. Don?
The Military Affairs Council has periodic hail and farewell receptions for military senior officials from all the bases, and they're always widely attended, and if you haven't been to one, it's worth going to. But the next one is April 23rd at the Antlers at 5 p.m.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. Tyler? Stan?
Yes, thank you. First off, the Space Symposium is going on this week, and I like to call space vehicles the ultimate off-road vehicle. Therefore, it's relevant to PPACG mission, right?
There you go.
So I would consider you learn more about it if you don't know much about the Space Symposium. It is gigantic. There's going to be 40,000 people there over the course of several days, largest one in the United States. It's actually driving the Broadmoor to build more buildings to house it, which I think is amazing. A couple of other things. I think I had mentioned to everybody at a previous meeting that I'm on the Complete Count Committee. This is the group that's doing the census. And right now, they have a military committee, but it had, the people that were on it had, I think, PCS'd away or something. So I'd like to work with our partners here at PPACG to get that reestablished. The last time we did the census, the biggest weakness in full collection of people that live in our area was actually on the military bases. And I want to mention that whether you're a resident of the area or, let's say, a resident but a citizen of another state, it doesn't make any difference. You get to be counted whether you're a college student or a military person or what have you. That's the way the census works. And every person we count is $1,700 a year in federal funds that comes to our community. So when we talk about maybe missing 10,000 people or something, we're talking about big money losses if we fail to do that. So I'd like to work with the team there to figure out how we can get that military committee reestablished. Also, it might be worthwhile to know there are 2 job fairs going on this week. So the first one is in the southeast at the YMCA 2190 Jet Wing. That's from 12 to 4:30 today. It's specifically for young adults, that particular job fair. And the second one is on Friday from 1 to 4 in Woodland Park at the Ute Pass Cultural Center, because the Pikes Peak Workforce Center is the workforce center for both Teller and El Paso. I also know that I think isn't there a farewell reception for Merv Bennett tonight? Tonight.
Weather willing.
Sorry?
Weather willing.
Weather willing, certainly. And I might have to think about the weather because I have a dinner tonight in Denver. But if you could pass my regards to Merv, I'm sorry I cannot make it. And then one last thing I'd like to mention, for those of you that maybe many of you know, but for those that don't, Henry Yankowski, our county administrator, is retiring. He's done a fantastic job on behalf of the county, but he's been in this local government business even before he moved to Colorado Springs. He's got a distinguished, long career in local government. His retirement reception is 22 April at Phantom Canyon from 4:30 to 6 p.m. I don't know if there's an RSVP requirement or not. I'd say just go ahead and crash the party and drive us all crazy. That sounds like fun. But if you feel compelled to RSVP, we can get you the invite and so forth. But if you had an opportunity to work with Henry, I would ask that you consider going and give him a great send-off. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
The only item I probably have that hasn't been covered is Commissioner Steen and I are on the National Association of Counties Transportation Committee, and we're hoping for an on-site visit by the committee in May or June. I haven't heard an official date yet, to go down and see the high-speed rail facility in Pueblo. So that'll be fun to have county commissioners from all over the nation coming to Pueblo and to Colorado Springs.
Fabulous.
We'll have them fly through the Colorado Springs Airport, of course.
Sounds good.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Okay, anything else for the good of the group? Oh, I forgot you,
That's
Mayor.
okay, you didn't forget. You didn't forget. Just one thing, in Woodland Park, a business expo put on by the Chamber this Thursday. I guess that's tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at the UPass Cultural Center. And on behalf of all of us, really, I've sat here for almost 6 years. The leadership that Andy provides, the communication, the ability to hire great people has made us a much better organization, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Well said, Mayor. Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
I'll sign the resolution.